Imagine that tomorrow morning, at exactly 9:17 a.m., every major observatory on Earth confirms the same thing. There is an extraterrestrial intelligence, not bacteria, not a strange signal with an unknown origin, not a distant possibility, a civilization. And the most terrifying part? It is not only somewhere out there in the universe. It knows that we exist. For centuries, humanity has looked at the sky and asked the same question. Are we alone? But perhaps the most dangerous question is not whether aliens exist. Perhaps the real question is, what would happen to the human mind if we finally discovered that we are not alone? The answer could be far more complex than panic, war, or destruction, because the greatest impact might not happen in the streets. It might happen inside the minds of billions of people. 1. The first impact: the end of uncertainty. The human mind can deal surprisingly well with possibilities. Maybe life exists somewhere beyond Earth. Maybe it does not. As long as everything remains uncertain, we can continue living our normal lives. But confirmation would change everything. The unknown would suddenly become real, and the human brain would have to reorganize one of its deepest beliefs, the idea that humanity holds a special position in the universe. Throughout history, humanity has experienced moments like this. For a long time, people believed that Earth was the center of the universe. Then we discovered that Earth orbits the Sun. Later, we learned that the Sun is only one star among billions. Now imagine discovering that intelligence is not exclusively human. For some people, this discovery would be fascinating. For others, deeply disturbing. Because the existence of an alien civilization could destroy one of the oldest ideas of our species, the belief that we are the most advanced intelligence we know. 2. The human brain does not like the unknown. The human brain evolved to detect threats, a sound in the darkness, a shadow moving in the distance, an unfamiliar animal. For thousands of years, this ability helped our ancestors survive. The problem is that the modern brain still operates using many of the same mechanisms. When a threat is unknown, the imagination begins to fill in the gaps. And usually, it does not choose the most peaceful scenario. If an extraterrestrial civilization were confirmed, millions of people would immediately ask the same questions. Are they dangerous? Can they reach Earth? Have they been watching us? Are they far more advanced than we are? And what if humanity has no way to defend itself? Even if scientists announced that there was no immediate threat, fear would not automatically disappear. Because fear does not depend only on facts. It also depends on our perception of control. And faced with a civilization potentially thousands or even millions of years more advanced than ours, many people could feel that they had completely lost control over humanity's future. 3. The problem of technological asymmetry. Imagine a medieval human seeing an airplane for the first time. To that person, it might look like magic. Now imagine a civilization with a technological advantage of 1 million years over humanity. The difference could be so enormous that we might not even be capable of understanding their technology. An ant cannot understand a smartphone, not because the ant is stupid, but because its mind and evolution were never prepared to understand that kind of object. The same thing could happen to us. An advanced alien civilization might possess technologies that, to us, would appear impossible. And this is one of the most psychologically disturbing possibilities, because humanity is used to being the dominant species on Earth. We build cities. We create artificial intelligence. We send machines to other planets. But for the first time, we might discover that, on a cosmic scale, we are still a very young civilization. A very young one. And this discovery could create something similar to a collective identity crisis. 4. Society could split apart. Not everyone would react in the same way. Some people would demand immediate contact. Others would argue that all communication should be forbidden. Governments might try to control information. Religions could reinterpret their beliefs. Scientists might enter a race to understand the origin, technology, and intentions of the alien civilization. And on the internet, the situation could become even more chaotic. Rumors would spread within seconds. Fake videos would be shared around the world. Conspiracy theories would appear. Any strange light in the sky could be interpreted as an alien spacecraft, and every official statement could be analyzed by billions of people. The question would no longer be simply, do aliens exist? It would also become, who is telling the truth? In a society already struggling with misinformation, the confirmation of extraterrestrial intelligence could create an unprecedented crisis of trust. 5. The collapse of normality. One of the most interesting effects could be the collapse of normality. Imagine waking up knowing that, somewhere in the universe, there is a civilization that does not belong to Earth. Would you still go to work? Would you still make plans for the next 10 years? Would you still worry about everyday problems? For some people, the answer would be yes. The human mind has an incredible ability to adapt. Even after enormous historical events, everyday life often continues. People still buy food. They go to work. They take care of their children. They talk to their friends. But at the same time, their perception of the future could change completely. If we discovered that a much more advanced civilization exists, some people might begin to ask, what is the meaning of our species? What does it mean to be human? Is our history still important? Is our civilization truly special? These questions could create a global existential crisis, not necessarily because aliens would do anything to us, but simply because their existence would change the way we see ourselves. 6. The effect on religion and belief. Another major impact would be religious and philosophical. For some religions, the existence of extraterrestrial life could be easily incorporated into their beliefs. For others, the discovery could create a deep spiritual crisis. But history shows us something important. When scientific discoveries challenged traditional views of the world, societies did not automatically disappear. They adapted. Beliefs were reinterpreted. New questions emerged. For this reason, it is unlikely that the existence of aliens alone would destroy all religions. More likely, it would transform the way many people understand life, creation, and humanity's place in the universe. 7. The greatest fear may not be an attack. When we think about aliens, we usually imagine an invasion, spaceships destroying cities, armies fighting against an extraterrestrial civilization. But scientifically, there is another scenario that might be even more psychologically terrifying. What if they simply do not care about us? Imagine discovering that an extremely advanced civilization exists. You send a message. You wait for years, decades, centuries, and you receive no answer. Or you receive a message making it clear that, to them, humanity is irrelevant. That could be deeply disturbing. Because humanity is used to believing that if we find intelligent beings, there will be some kind of conversation. But perhaps the difference between our civilizations would be so enormous that communication would be impossible. Just as we do not try to communicate with every insect we encounter, a much more advanced civilization might look at us in a similar way. Not necessarily with hatred, perhaps simply with indifference. And for many people, indifference could be more frightening than hostility. 8. Would humanity really collapse? Probably not immediately. Most people would not abandon their homes. The economy would not necessarily disappear. Governments would not necessarily collapse. Human beings are incredibly adaptable. But that does not mean nothing would change. The discovery could create a global psychological transformation. Some people would feel fear. Others would feel hope. Some would find a new meaning in life. Others might lose the meaning they once had. And perhaps that is the real impact. Not the physical collapse of humanity, but the collapse of our worldview. Throughout history, humanity has built its identity by looking inward, at our cities, our countries, our wars, and our problems. But the confirmation of an alien civilization would force all of us to look outward, toward something much larger. And perhaps, for the first time, humanity would have to accept a difficult truth. We may be intelligent. We may be technologically advanced. We may have built an entire civilization. But that does not mean we are the only possibility for intelligence in the universe. Perhaps discovering aliens would not destroy humanity. Perhaps it would simply destroy the illusion that we are alone. And after that, we would have to answer the most important question of all. If we are not the only intelligent beings in the universe, then who are we? And what will we do with that knowledge?